Good evening. This is the May 1st, 2024 Seminole County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This board is a 7-member board appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. A quorum has been established to hold tonight's meeting. Public hearing items acted upon by this board are referred to the Board of County Commissioners for further consideration. Board members present tonight, starting with Commissioner Carissa Lawhon, me, Chairman Dan Lopez, Commissioner Richard German, and Commissioner Brandy Iapolo. Staff present tonight are Dale Hall, Planning and Zoning Manager, Nisa Borkert, Deputy County Attorney, Vladimir Simonovsky, Development Review Engineer Manager, Joy Giles, Principal Planner, and Tammy Brushwood, P&Z Board Clerk. Tonight's meeting will go as follows. Staff will introduce the item. The applicant will present the item. Audience members wishing to speak will then be heard. Please complete a comment card and give it to the clerk if you wish to speak. Comment cards are located in the lobby. Speakers should restrict their comments to information directly related to the item being heard. Audience speakers will have 3 minutes or 6 minutes if representing a group. When called, speakers should approach the microphone, providing their name and address for the record. The board may ask questions of the speaker. After all speakers have been heard, public comment will be closed. The applicant will be given a chance for a rebuttal. Any items shown, such as videos, presentations, pictures, or maps, must be left with the clerk for the public record. Items shown from electronic devices should be emailed to the clerk. A motion will be made and seconded. Board discussion may occur and conclude with a vote. I will request a roll call for any split votes. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the proof of publication. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item will be the public hearing items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'm sorry, would be the
Minutes.
the minutes.
Yes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, next will be the public hearing items. First on the agenda will be the Rivas Commercial Rezone. Joy Giles presenting.
Good evening. Joy Giles, Principal Planner for the Planning and Development Division. The applicant is requesting a rezone from, the applicant is requesting approval of a rezone from A1 Agriculture to C3 General Commercial and Wholesale on approximately 0.78 acres located on the west side of West State Road 426, approximately 500 feet north of Connection Point. The subject site is currently developed as a single-family residence under the existing A1 zoning classification. The applicant is requesting the rezone from A1 to C3 to redevelop the property from a single-family residence to an undetermined commercial development in compliance with the C3 zoning regulations. The property has an existing future land use of industrial, which permits the C3 zoning classification. The property has an existing access on a West State Road 426, which is classified as an urban principal arterial. There is an existing 14-foot wide paved trail known as the Cross Seminole Trail located along the west side of West State Road 426. Therefore, the developer will not be required to construct a sidewalk along the right-of-way. At time of engineered site plan review, the development must meet all requirements for parking, access, maximum building height, minimum open space requirements, permitted uses, maximum FAR, and will be evaluated for buffer requirements at that time. The purpose and intent of the existing industrial future land use is to identify a variety of heavy commercial and industrial land uses oriented towards wholesale distribution, storage, manufacturing, and other industrial uses. The land use should be located with direct access to rail systems, collector, and arterial roadways, and as infill development where the use is already established. As previously stated, State Road 426 is an urban principal arterial and as such meets the intent of the comprehensive plan. Under Comprehensive Plan Policy Flu 17.5, Evaluation Criteria of Property Rights Assertions, the reasonable use of property is a use which does not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, or welfare, and is compatible with the abutting or approximate properties, and is otherwise the use that is consistent with the generally accepted land use principles. Staff finds a requested rezone from A1 to C3 to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the surrounding trend of development in the area. Excuse me, put that back there. All of the properties on the west side of West State Road 426, lying south of West Chapman Road and north of Aloma Woods, have an industrial future land use which allows for industrial, commercial, and office uses and permits the requested C3 zoning district. Further, the properties to the west and south are zoned to permit C1 retail commercial, C3 general commercial and wholesale, and M1A very light industrial uses. Therefore, staff requests that the Board of County Commissioners adopt an ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 to C3 on approximately .78 acres located on the west side of West State Road 426, approximately 500 feet north of Connection Point. Thank you.
Any questions from the board for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant...
I guess I do.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Joy, how come you're going C3 when it's next door to C1? Just curiosity.
Well, C3 is a permitted zoning under the industrial land use, and there are C3 uses approved in the area, so staff felt that it was compatible.
Okay. And that was okay with the applicant?
That's what the applicant requested.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, is the applicant present?
Philip Hollis, PMJS Development Solutions, representing Mr. Rivas, and address 263 Minorca Beach Way, New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Wow, there's nothing I can say. Staff, Joy did such a good job on her presentation. We concur with staff comments and would be available to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the board for staff? For the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir. We have a gentleman by the name of Brian Taylor wishes to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Brian Taylor. I'm at 2171 South Terrace Boulevard in Longwood. I just want to state that I'm in full agreement with the project, and I think it's a great fit for what's going on Aloma. On the adjoining next-door property owners on the two parcels that are in the white, just want to say, keep it simple and say I think we should do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the audience? Seeing none. Any discussion from the board? Anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make the motion then. I'll recommend that we recommend to the Board of County Commissioners they adopt an ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agricultural to C3 general commercial and wholesale on approximately .78 acres located on the west side of State Road 426, approximately 500 feet north of Connection Point.
Second?
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, moving on to number 2 of the agenda, the Lake Emma Self-Storage Small Scale for Future Land Use Map Amendment and PD Rezone. Joy Giles presenting.
Yes. The applicant is requesting approval of the Lake Emma Self-Storage Small-Scale Future Land Use Map Amendment from commercial to plan development and rezone from C2 retail commercial to PD plan development on approximately 1.26 acres located on the east side of Lake Emma Road, approximately 250 feet south of Lake Mary Boulevard. The subject site is currently developed as a retail commercial center in compliance with the existing commercial future land use and the C2 retail commercial zoning district. The applicant proposes to redevelop the property from the 15,000 square foot multi-tenant commercial building to a self-storage facility with a floor area ratio of 1.96 and a maximum building height of 50 feet. The Seminole County Land Development Code classifies self-storage as an industrial use which is not permitted under the existing commercial future land use designation. The commercial flue has a maximum floor area ratio of 0.35, and the industrial flue has a maximum floor area ratio of 0.65. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a future land use amendment to plan development, which provides for a variety of intensities and uses. The site is located within the Lake Mary Boulevard Gateway Corridor overlay. The purpose and intent of the overlay is to provide uniform design standards to establish high-quality and well-landscaped development, prevent visual pollution of building heights that may not be compatible with the surrounding character of development, and maximize traffic circulation functions from the standpoint of safety, roadway capacity, and vehicular movements. The overlay restricts the maximum building height of all structures to 35 feet, requires a minimum of a 15-foot wide landscape buffer along the west perimeter adjacent to Lake Emma Road with specific buffer components, and requires a minimum of a 50-foot building setback. The applicant is requesting a variance from the maximum building height and the minimum landscape buffer requirement through the PD rezone to allow for a maximum building height of 50 feet, a reduced landscape buffer along Lake Emma Road to 5 feet. I would like to bring it to the board's attention that the proposed master development plan in your agenda, as well as the agenda report, states that the applicant is requesting a setback of 25 feet, which is also a variance from the 50-foot setback required from the overlay. However, we did have a discussion yesterday, and the applicant is amenable to providing a 50-foot building setback. The applicant's justification statement for the requested PD zoning district references 3 existing commercial developments, commercial establishments for comparable building heights. The Top Golf Entertainment Establishment, which is approximately a quarter-mile south from the subject site, the Academy Sports Retail Store, which is located in the shopping center directly behind the site, and the Hyatt Place Lake Mary Hotel, located approximately a half a mile west of the site. Staff has evaluated the justification statement and has determined that the Topgolf facility is under the City of Lake Mary's jurisdiction and is not located within the Lake Mary Boulevard corridor overlay, so it does not have to meet the standards of the 35-foot building height. The Academy Sports Retail Store has a maximum building height of 35 feet. However, it does have a parapet that is higher than that, but the building itself does meet the 35-foot requirement. The Hyatt Place Lake Mary Hotel was approved in 1993 with a building height of 45 feet, which was 3 years after the overlay was adopted. The hotel was considered to be compatible with its height due to its proximity to the I-4 ramp. The development proposes to utilize the existing access onto Lake Emma Road, which is classified as an urban major collector. Public Works does have concerns about the existing access in relation to large moving trucks and trailers successfully maneuvering in and out of the site. If the proposed development is approved by the board, the existing access and median will be further evaluated to determine if a left turn median cut will need to be removed and redesigned to channelize traffic flow. The comprehensive plan sets forth criteria to evaluate proposed future land use amendments for compatibility. These criteria include whether the character of the surrounding area has changed enough to warrant a different land use and intensity. The surrounding area along Lake Mary Boulevard from I-4 to Reinhardt Road primarily consists of office and retail commercial development located in unincorporated Seminole County as well as the City of Lake Mary. Seminole County's commercial future land use limits the FAR to 0.35 and does not permit industrial uses such as self-storage. The Seminole County Land Development Code sets forth criteria for approving planned developments. The proposed development must be consistent with the comprehensive plan and effectively implement performance criteria contained therein. In addition, it must be determined that the proposed development cannot reasonably be implemented through existing provisions of the Land Development Code, and that the PD zoning would result in greater benefits to the county than that of under conditional zoning. While the proposed development meets the minimum required open space of 25% for the PD zoning designation and proposed building setback in compliance with the overlay, the master development plan has not demonstrated how the PD zoning results in greater benefits to the county than development under conventional zoning. The proposed 5-foot wide landscape buffer along Lake Emma Road does not meet the minimum 25-foot buffer requirement that our standard land development code buffer ordinance would require, nor does it meet the minimum 15-foot wide buffer requirement of the Lake Mary Boulevard Gateway Corridor overlay. The proposed building height of 50 feet is not in compliance with the overlay and is out of character for the area. The proposed floor area ratio of 1.96 is much more intense than the surrounding commercial developments with a maximum floor area ratio of 0.35. And the industrial use of self-storage is not consistent with the surrounding established commercial uses. In conclusion, staff finds the request of future land use amendment and PD rezone to be inconsistent with the Comprehensive Plan Policy Flu 2.9 determination of compatibility in the Plan Development Zoning classification. Also inconsistent with Seminole County Land Development Code Part 25 PD Plan Development Review Criteria, as well as inconsistent with Part 56 Lake Mary Boulevard Gateway Corridor Overlay Standards, including Sections 30.1065, Building Height, Section 30.1066, Required Corridor Buffer Width, Section 30.1066B, Required Corridor Buffer Plantings and Placement, as well as Section 30.1071, Additional Zoning Variance Criteria. Therefore, staff requests that the Board of County Commissioners deny the requested small-scale future land use map amendment and concurrent rezone as per the following. Based on staff's findings and the testimony and evidence received at the hearing, the board finds that the request does not meet the identified portions of the comprehensive plan and moves to deny the requested small-scale future land use map amendment from commercial to plan development. And based on staff's findings and the testimony and evidence received at the hearing, the board finds the request does not meet the identified portions of the Seminole County Land Development Code and moves to deny the requested rezone from C2 to PD and the associated development order and master development plan. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for staff?
I have a couple.
Okay.
Joy, what is on the site now?
It is a commercial center. There is a restaurant. There are a few other, I believe a few of the tenants are vacant at this time. I think that there was a retail shop in there at one point. and I
It's
believe
old,
maybe-
isn't it not?
It is. It's
Yeah.
quite old, yeah. I believe an insurance office was there as well.
Can you go back a couple slides to the one before that, actually? Are you able to show us, just kind of draw on a map, where the Lake Mary Boulevard Gateway Corridor overlay falls on that? Because you mentioned that some things are outside of it.
Yes, so it actually runs west of I-4 down to Markham, and then it runs all the way east down to, let me see, I can tell you the exact road. Let's see. To Sanford Avenue.
But cuts off here somewhere between Topgolf and Academy Sports? Is
Oh,
that what I
forgive
understand?
me. So from the center line of Lake Mary Boulevard, it runs south and north 320 feet. So everything within 320 feet of that center line is included.
And how many feet away is this?
This is 300 and, let's see, excuse me, it is 291 feet from the center line.
So they're about, what would that be, about 29 feet to the
20,
bad?
yes,
Okay.
correct.
Any other questions from the board for staff?
I may have some, but I want to hear from them.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right, is the applicant present?
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Stokes. I'm with Madden Morton Stokes. We're the civil engineer. We're here on behalf of the Huber Group, the applicant, and Alan Bradley with the Huber Group is here with me as well. Just want to thank Joy and staff for preparing their report. It's a long one. There's a lot going on with this property. And I have prepared a few slides to answer a few questions that you probably have. I think with this property, it was done back in the 80s. It's retail, commercial. The access is through an easement that also serves the gas station. It's just pretty old. It's been there a long time. The area has changed. And so I think some of the context of the surrounding areas and how things have changed and are changing are important, as well as some of the specifics of some of the criteria. So,
We're trying to open this up so they can actually see.
no problem. And I'll kind of talk a few things while she's looking at that, and then when we get the exhibits going, I'll point them out. The applicant, when they first submitted, this thing was submitted as a 5-story, 60-foot tall building, and through the process of negotiating with staff, it has been reduced down to a 4-story, 50-foot building. Some of the comments in the staff report about building finishes, window treatments and brick and things like that. For the most part, the applicant has agreed with staff outside of the stone or brick criteria. It's something they don't feel is applicable to the style of the project, the self-storage, and it's kind of not the product that they do. They do a lot of these types of buildings throughout the Central Florida area. A few of the things I'll point out when the slide gets up here, it'll help make more sense, is the access and the buffer along Lake Emma are kind of tied together because of the existing, there we go. Some of these we'll click through pretty quickly. So this is an elevation of the building. It shows you kind of what it looks like. That is the 4-story, 50-foot tall building. And this is your view from Lake Emma Boulevard for the most part. Slightly from a northerly looking to the southeast, the general approach there. So what do I click? Go to the next one. So these slides with the exhibit on the top have been provided to staff and already in the report, but I thought it would be good to show them to you guys as well and talk through them. Regarding the board's comments about the distance with the Lake Mary Boulevard overlay being a 320 foot from the center line, this exhibit shows you our building location relative to that. On the closest side, the building itself, not the property line, but the building is 304 feet from the center line. And on the left side, which is your western side, the building is 312 feet from the center line. And of course, the overlay says any building within 320 foot has to comply with that 35-foot criteria. So it's a small sliver of the building. And something else that we feel is important is that this property does not front Lake Mary Boulevard. It fronts Lake Emma. And it has since the 1980s. And so I think the amount of encroachment, as well as the proximity of how the property fronts, where your access is from, your view corridor, the context of that matters. There's a gas station between us and the road, and there's a ginormous shopping center surrounding us to our south and east as well. So I think we can go to the next slide. Actually, let's go to the next slide.
Can you point out where the gas station is?
Directly north.
It's directly north. So where the 312 text is, that's the facility there.
Okay.
And then if we actually scroll down a little bit for me, Alan. I just go ahead and point out, go back, right there. So on the left side of the site plan, you'll see coming off the entrance there, there's a sharp curve and it goes due north. That is the alignment of the existing easement today. And the reason why that's important is it ties into the driveway at the gas station at that specific spot. And so from a standpoint of trying to address the need for a larger buffer, we have two fixed points physically for vehicles and driveways to get into the property. The driveway exists, the easement exists, and the gas station access exists today. And so you basically have to come right there and turn right away and go due north to get there. So the ability to provide a 15-foot wide buffer would require the moving of a driveway that exists on someone else's property, which is obviously something we can't control as an applicant of this piece of property today. These next couple of slides are just to show you the other properties that we've referenced in our justification statement for the building heights. Yes, we know they're far away in terms of not being adjacent directly to the project, but they're what we believe is still the general area. And the point of these slides and the last one is kind of to show you the general area and how things have transpired and are going to transpire even more once other things happen. So this is the hotel. It's 45 feet. While certain approvals happened earlier, this plan was approved in the early 2000s, I think around 2007. It was approved by St. John's. This is the former Kmart, which is the new academy. And as Joy mentioned, the building does comply. The parapet area, which is probably the middle third, roughly, of the building, I would say, does reach a height of 53 feet. And that was, southeast of the property. And then the next slide is Topgolf. This one's unique. It's obviously not Seminole County jurisdiction. It's pretty close to the property. And this one's unique in that it has extreme heights. The main lot, which is lot 1, is the Topgolf facility. The poles that support the fencing are 170 foot tall, and the allowance for the building is up to 55 feet, I believe, and 5 stories. The out parcel lot, which is the bottom right of the screen, it's not colored, it's kind of empty, is approved for up to a 10-story, 100-foot tall hotel as one of its allowable uses. Nothing is there today, but that's an approved allowable use, which is significantly higher than anything we're requesting today. This is just the survey in case we needed to zoom in and look at the easement or something. But again, you can see that drive access as it comes off of Lake Emma, and it goes, for the most part, due north, and then connects to the gas station driveway. And then what's not shown very well on the plan is there's a small retention pond between the access drive and Lake Emma, as well as a small swale just on the south side, just below the bottom of the access drive as well. So the reason for our request of the 5-foot landscape buffer is simply we're just pinched on space. If we could move that drive or that drive didn't exist, that wouldn't be one of our requests today. But the easement's there. The 2 points of connection are fixed. They've been long-standing points of access. And so we have a small sliver. And generally speaking, utilities, public works departments, they kind of frown upon when you plant trees and shrubs within their within stormwater ponds in general. They view it as a maintenance potential challenge throughout the life of a project if you have trees and vegetation within the side slopes of retention ponds. So those criteria kind of led us to the request for the 5 feet. And I think we can go to the next one.
Chairman, over
Yes.
here.
Mhm.
Hi, may I ask a question of the applicant about the landscape buffer?
Is it something that can wait until he's finished with his presentation?
Well, he just already had it up, and we were on the subject,
Okay.
but I'm
As long as
happy to
it's-
hold off and wait.
As long as he's okay with it, I'm fine.
It's perfectly fine with us.
Okay.
So, this property is located in the Lake Mary overlay, and the landscape buffer is required to be 25 feet. And I understand that you're requesting a 5-foot landscape buffer, but there's a provision of the code as it pertains to additional variance requirements, and that allows you to go to a 10-foot buffer minimum if you're less than 200 feet in depth. And your property's more than that. So I know you talked about the hardship as far as why you needed the landscape buffer to make the site work, why you need to reduce to 5, but can you put on the record why you believe you can go to 5 when the minimum's 10 if you have 200? I just don't know.
Sure.
Legally, it's my opinion that you can't go to 5 because the minimum's 10, and that's only if you have a depth of less than 200 feet. But if there's something else you want to put on the record in this, that's kind of why I stopped you, just to cover that.
The reasons are the existing easement and the 2 existing access points. You know, the driveway is fixed off Lake Emma, and more importantly, the driveway to the north, to the adjacent property, which we don't own or control, is fixed and tied to that easement as well. And so you can see the teardrop shape to the area between the access drive and Lake Emma. So it's very wide on the bottom, and it tapers to a very narrow distance at the top. And so that existing condition is what, you know, prompted the request and is the restriction and why we can't provide the larger one.
So how wide is that access easement? I'm sorry, I can't read it from here.
The drive aisle is roughly
Yeah.
20 feet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
And coupled with that, how far is the drive aisle to where the proposed building is going to go? How much space is between that and the building?
Let me look at that real fast. So the drive aisle, it's kind of there, near the north-south portion of the drive aisle is about 70 feet to the building, roughly. On our plan, we have the parking spaces on the bottom. We have a, call it a dividing island to separate the drive-through for the storage facilities. People can pull up and do their, dropping off their stuff from storage and not restrict access through the easement to the north. We can't stop and park in that and do any kind of loading in that because we'd restrict people.
So you can't get, because of the drive aisle, you can't get much of a landscape buffer on the Lake Emma side, but you do have quite a bit of footage then between the drive aisle and the building. So can you do a little more there in terms of landscape?
Well, that's what we're showing there with that island.
If you're asking if we could just move the plantings to a different location, such as this larger island adjacent to the parapet and canopy, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm asking if you can add to, since you can't get it on one side, can you get it at least some additional
Yeah.
landscape
How
and
much
some,
is that? 20 feet
it's still the same kind of buffering, it's just in a different location.
roughly. So what we've tried to do with, if you can kind of imagine the drive aisle having some footage, and then east of the drive aisle, so as we go right from that, if you see I've got canopy marked in the middle there, that'd be a covered unloading and loading zone, the main entry to the building. But with a landscaped island kind of anchoring that, and then landscaping to the north of it in front of those 3 parking spaces, as well as landscaping to the south of it in front of the bulk of parking spaces. The attempt through providing that island and those extra buffers there in decreasing how many parking spaces we had originally shown down to this plan was trying to create more landscape buffer there inland of the drive aisle. Because we're limited, basically, everything.
That's what I'm asking.
Right, everything west of the drive aisle between Lake Emma Road and that drive aisle is quite fixed. It's currently
Yeah,
retention.
got
So what we tried to do was create some inland of that while I'm not able to make a loading and unloading zone or parking spaces within that drive aisle. It has to be free and clear 22 feet. So then kind of utilizing anything east of that for our uses while also adding in some landscaping, because at the end of the day, we don't want just a blank building 5 feet from the road. We're trying to improve upon what's there.
But he said you had 70 feet from the drive aisle to the building. That's a lot of footage. I mean, that can house some parking spaces
Yeah.
in terms of width, I'm talking about. or
Right.
depth.
Maybe a little less.
Roughly, yeah.
So you
Give or
should have,
take.
well, you should have some room to do some additional landscaping.
That
And that's-
island is about 20 feet wide, so we do have room in that to do it
Yeah, I mean,
without restricting access to the building.
that's
For the
where,
developer.
with the exception of, kind of this distance and this distance, and unfortunately, this doesn't show color on it,
No, I understand.
but the intention was that this would be landscaped quite well, this would be landscaped quite well, and then this down here would be landscaped, in addition to landscaping here, but to his point earlier, if it's retention, we can't really put canopy trees or understory trees in the retention area. It'd be more grassy areas, low
Understand.
shrubs, in conjunction with everything. Yeah, there we go. And so those spaces, what he's just colored in, represent roughly 20 feet of width, in addition to what is west of those, so closer to Lake Emma.
How about up against the building? Without blocking your entry point, I
Sure.
understand that.
The base of the building.
Yep. And, I mean, we would be willing to do that, and obviously, doing truck turns there, because a large part of this is fire truck access, and then we have such a low volume of traffic that this type of use generates, but it's typically a larger vehicle, as you could reasonably understand. But yeah, we could definitely
Okay.
add some landscaping onto the front of the building there.
Plus the other points that he colored in. Right,
Yes, sir.
okay, thank you.
Did you get an opportunity to complete your presentation, or?
So you were still going when we interrupted on the landscaping, I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. That's why we're here. So
Yeah.
we're here to answer questions. Yeah, there is another slide there at the end. The last one is the most important one, I think. It puts a lot of this into context in terms of proximity. And again, it's very similar to the overall plan Joyce showed earlier, but this one has one extra thing added that's eventually going to happen with I-4 when they do their expansion and change their access ramps. So this plan is kind of the combination of everything, like you've seen before, with the addition of the future I-4 off-ramp, which will directly connect to Lake Emma Boulevard. So, with all the traffic going on today, and with all the, changes to the area that have happened and are going to continue to happen, we all know that as access improves to areas, development, moves to those areas, more development is spurred to happen as access improves. So today the intersection of Lake Mary Boulevard and Lake Emma is a pinch point. It's a challenging intersection. So this improvement by DOT is going to funnel all those trips that would be going down Lake Mary and then turning south on Lake Emma to funnel right down to this portion of Lake Emma to make their decision. So, this is something that they haven't started on yet, of course, but it's in the works. It's something they're going to be doing in the near future. And it also shows on this plan the Topgolf, the Academy, Lake Emma Art Project, and the Hyatt just to the left of I-4 there.
You said, or at the beginning, somebody said something about you agreed to additional building setback versus what?
Yes, we do agree to that. The plan already meets it, actually. It's just something during the review, it kind of got missed or didn't come up. But either way, the building is already set back more than the 50-foot required, and we definitely comply, and we agree with that.
Well, she had it in here that was part of your problem, was the building setback, but that's no longer a problem? Is it, might I understand that?
It was really never a problem. It was in the report that way, and when we talked to Joy the other day, we confirmed that that's okay with us because we already meet it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions from the board for the applicant? I'm assuming you completed, or?
I am done.
All right,
Thank you.
thank
I would add that, we've worked in Seminole County a long time, and I think I can count on one hand how many times we've been up here without staff support. And before my time at this firm, and so, we appreciate all their hard work all the time, and it's always our goal to try and get consensus There's just a couple things on this one that, different circumstances and time and the area, we just still disagree on a few things on. So, but we appreciate all their help. Your staff has always been amazing to work with, and we always appreciate working with them. So with that, I am done.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional questions from the board? All right, seeing none. Any member of the audience wish to speak on this? Seeing none? Oh, was there? Okay. Please come on up. And when you get a chance, please fill out a comment card. You'll find those in the lobby. Yes, sir. And please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Steven Garcia, and I am a tenant at one of the at the shops of Lake Emma, and that's 3895 Lake Emma Road, and we're Suite 109. Our business name is Blends at Lake Mary. We're a healthy cafe that we do protein shakes, protein donuts, just something energizer, something for the community to have, so they have a place where they can go and have something healthier than what usually is in the area. We've been there going on a year now in May. The proposed plan that's happening was new to us. We didn't know that was happening. We just found out maybe a week ago when they put this sign up. I'd like to say that because there's not many businesses there, I will agree with that, what the gentleman had mentioned earlier, but allowing us to actually have that opportunity to open up as an entrepreneur, first time doing a business, and having our location there has been a godsend to us because it gave us an opportunity to become part of the community which we've created in that location. Not only do we serve the community there, they allow us to also make a living by having that business there. So we also appreciate that the landlord allowed us to be there and the position that we're in now to be able to serve everybody. With what's going on now, I don't know if you guys see the area. You probably lived here longer than I have. But Lake Emma Road is very busy. It's a very busy road along with Lake Mary Boulevard. And it is going to be difficult to have something like that building there in regards to, it's my humble opinion, if I may. Something like that, and this is no disrespect to the developers, but something like that is actually going to be out of character in this neighborhood. I've only lived here going on a year now, year and a half, and Lake Mary is a very beautiful place, and that area there, I think doing a storage unit would actually hinder what is already there. In regards to the academy and what's behind there, being that that's a big plaza and it's hidden behind and it's only the entrance space that's actually pretty high, it doesn't really take away from what the area looks like on Lake Emma Road. So I just wanted to say, for small business like myself, it is a great opportunity to have something there, as rents are not easily attainable for someone who's trying to open up a business, and the opportunity has been great for us, and we would like to continue being here and serving everyone, and maybe one day hopefully serve one of you guys while we're there. So I just wanted to say thank you for the time and the opportunity to speak, and if that helped in any way, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sir, take one of those and fill those in.
Was there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak on the matter? All right, seeing none. Any further discussion from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and
please go ahead.
council, I apologize for my late, and I just want to know if I can vote or not on this issue since I was late.
I believe she can, right?
Yeah, I mean, you came in during the hearing, so, not the previous one, obviously, that one's closed, but this one you can. So if you have any additional information or you want Joy to go back through a presentation, she can be happy to do that.
I'm good, thank you.
We have some time. Did you need to go?
I'm good.
You good? All right, outstanding.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask Joy some questions. if
Please
she
go
can
ahead.
come back. Joy, based on that discussion we just had, do you feel a little differently about all your recommendation?
Well, it does not change staff's recommendation because it does not meet the requirement of the overlay. The only variance to the overlay is, as Nesa had previously mentioned, the required landscape buffer can be reduced to a 10-foot buffer only if the depth of the lot does not meet the 200-foot, I believe it was 200-foot minimum. So
But
that's the only
You didn't like the
variance.
compromise that he was offering?
Well, I appreciate the compromise, but I have to look at the code as it's stated, and that's the only way that the overlay allows for the variance.
Would be the landscape variance.
Correct.
But he has an easement that he can't plant in. I don't know how you solve, there's no way to solve that problem. So anybody that builds there is going to have that problem.
Well, if I may, Nesa Borker, Deputy County Attorney for the record, I think as we were going through it and they were explaining, I think there's a couple questions here. Number one, can you utilize the 20-foot planting area in the island and on the north side and on the south side, depending on how wide that is, to count towards your buffer? Can that be utilized? That was one of the questions I had. And I don't think in any case, the code doesn't allow for them to go to 5 feet. It allows for 10 if you have, less than 200 feet. They have about 219, or
Correct.
219 feet in width. But it doesn't say, the minimum's 10 if you have 200, but you can grant a variance conceivably between 25 feet and 10 feet, right? For 15 feet, because 15 feet doesn't require you to have that less width, right? But 5 feet, no. 10 feet, they don't meet. But you could do something in between 10 and 25 feet, and I think Joy and planning would have to look at, could you count the width areas and the planting areas at the top and then the bottom towards the width, right? And then maybe they could get there through that. I'm not a planner, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. That you would be able to grant, if you decided, approval for this, you would be able to grant a variance somewhere between 25 feet and 11 feet, let's say, for the buffer planting.
you.
Commissioner, I can share that during discussion with the applicant during review of the project, the staff recommended that the existing retention pond along the west side be moved in order to provide a buffer area. And it was stated that they wanted to utilize that existing pond as it is, so that they would not be able to use that for buffer. Staff recommended that since the site is being redeveloped, that it be redeveloped all the way to provide, the most space possible for the buffer area.
Okay?
So you're saying that challenge can be overcome with the moving of the retention pond?
I'm not an engineer, so I don't want, but we felt that there was room for some more, give and take.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Commissioner German.
Well, just one other thing, Joy. I've noticed that you guys have started under requested action or just plain action. Used to be that we got motions for both sides if we wanted to deny or we wanted to recommend approval. You only put in here 2 motions to deny, nothing to, if maybe I want to approve this. And that was, by the way, same on the first one. Maybe I wanted to deny and it only said, and I don't know why did we change that? You guys used to give us the 2 alternatives and you don't do that anymore. So maybe you could think about that.
Well,
defer that to
you can always.
That's not a legal question.
Well, no, but kind of. Okay, so this motion, this requested action here, is staff's recommendation in their request.
I understand, but we used to get a choice.
Right, and staff can still provide you with an alternate motion, and that's fine. I don't know why procedurally that was, excuse me.
Been done away with. I don't know.
Stop being done away with. I can tell you why this looks a little different, and that's because when I took over, I crafted the language because there's certain legal requirements to have to go into.
I got it.
Now, I will tell you this. If you do want to approve it, I'll give you some guidance now. You have a staff report that recommends denial, and so everything in the staff report basically sets out the evidence as to why you should deny. However, then you have the applicant's testimony as to why it should be approved. So you have testimony on the record as to both sides.
Right.
If you're going to approve it, then you have to make your approval based on the applicant's testimony and the information that they've provided at the hearing. And also, since staff was recommending denial, there was no development order prepared, but the applicant did provide a development order. So your recommendation of approval should include not only the approval of the comp plan, but the rezoning with the PD development order that the applicant provided. Now, if you've looked at that development order and there's any changes that you want within that development order, you'd have to state that for the record, what changes that you'd want to be made.
Can I talk to the applicant again? Can he, can, you know, I think there's some things that you can work out here.
I agree.
You want to get tabled, or do you want to get whatever action we end up taking and you move forward? Just,
Could we, I think the landscape buffer maybe is the item that may make a difference. If it is, we have a suggestion on how it could be addressed, if that would make a difference to the board this evening.
anything could make a difference, I mean, you know.
So
Yeah, if you want to present your suggestion, that's fine.
the challenge in the buffer, just as they typically are applied, is it would conflict with the easement and the retention pond. If there is a way that the buffer can be, the language could be stated to allow, the buffer where it doesn't conflict with the easement, and that trees could be planted in the side slopes of the pond, and the pond is allowed within the buffer, and that if we could relocate plantings to other areas of the property between the building and Lake Emma Road, so don't count it as a buffer, but say we could move plantings there to help achieve the plant criteria that staff and the buffer are looking for. I think something along those lines is absolutely reasonable and can be worked out. I'm not sure if there's other things that the board has that are concerns, but for that one, I think there's ways to be creative and trying to appease all the sides for that item.
If I may interject, Dale Hall, Planning and Development Manager. This slide here, I made sure to put this on, is the list of items that did not meet the criteria of our code and our land use amendment code and comp plan. So yes, the buffer width is one of those items, but there are still incompatibility issues and rezoning issues and land use issues and other building height issues and things that need to be considered also. So it goes beyond just the landscape issue. There's a multitude of issues that need to be addressed on this one, or considered.
You know, this is a very difficult piece of property, and what's there now really could use some redevelopment, and that's all I was trying to get to, is really something that is improvement for what's there. I don't think staff took that much into consideration to find some ways to help this, in my opinion.
If I may.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
Alan Bradley. I'm with the Huber Group. So our company developed this center originally in the 1980s. We've been landlords of it this whole time, and it is a unique circumstance we find ourselves in, getting the opportunity to manage the center for that many years nonstop. It's nearly 40 years old, and those of us who have seen Orlando for that long, and more specifically Lake Mary, would be, I think, singing in unison that a lot has changed. We're looking at a project that has lived its life and is ready for its new life from our standpoint as owners. And I think that the difficulties with which the center sometimes has operated in recent years is evidence that times change, centers change, uses within centers change. Who thought that a Kmart would become a gym, or a sporting goods store, a movie theater would shut down, or office buildings would become apartments? There's a lot going on, not just in Seminole County, not just in Lake Mary, but in the greater area. Something that we ran into a lot through this process with staff that I think we would all acknowledge is a challenge. There's not much language in Seminole County for infill redevelopment. And we're standing at the precipice of a lot of change in this area. Now, if Chick-fil-A wants to close and become a Taco Bell, code is clear on that, and that fits. But what we're talking about is self-storage, that if anyone has been a customer of, and I don't mean of me, but I mean of self-storage in general in any location, it's not an industrial use when you really touch it and feel it. We're talking about a retail use. We're talking about something that follows bedrooms. We're talking about a use that is necessary to a human going through a life change. It's weird to think about who needs storage, but you may be moving. You may have had a death in your family. You may have had a divorce. You may be downsizing, upsizing. You've got that parent moving in with you, your child moving out, your job moved you to another place. So we follow community, we follow families, we follow homes. We don't usually go build on the outskirts of town and wait for the houses to follow. So this is a unique opportunity for us in finding my way of how this meets the desires of Seminole County. We're providing a necessary service. We do a lot of our in-house studies of how we market, who we look for, and where we go. And this area is greatly underserved for our product. When I think about floor area ratio, we have a code that wants you to build a sea of parking with a tiny building that's only 30% of the whole lot. We're talking about a very small infill piece of land here. It's under 1.5 acres. So what you have there already does have a very large FAR compared to what code typically allows, but it's the typical 100 parking spaces and a tiny little building. Today we have a building that sits on the property line with minimal landscaping and maximal lot development. We're actually increasing open space with our proposed plan. We're decreasing parking. We're cutting our proposed trips, and trip generation is a big deal in a heavily congested area like this. We're cutting them in half. Now, I know that when you look at square footages are going up. It's because this is a passive use. It's an extension of a home, and it's something very necessary for a lot of the new development that comes into Lake County. Or, I'm sorry, Seminole County, Lake Mary, combining those. So I don't want to have to go down the steps of this, but I believe that we are providing something that is compatible to the area. Well, I'm not asking to build this in the middle of residential part of Seminole County. I'm not asking to build this on a 2-lane dirt road at the dead end. I'm asking to build it at a reasonable intersection that does not have residential uses adjacent to affect somebody's life. I'm asking to use a commercial use in place of a commercial use. I'm asking to decrease the traffic on an already strained network. And in exchange for that, I'm asking to build at a size that is appropriate for the area and appropriate for the economics, to go up to 4 stories and 50 feet, which is in character with waivers that have been granted in the past, as we proved, by the hotel that is just west. We're on the outskirts of the Lake Mary overlay without being fronting on Lake Mary Boulevard. And at the end of the day, we would like to breathe new life into this location, to take a tired, blighted, and difficult to run shopping center and replace it with something that serves the community, is brand new, looks great, and costs a whole lot more money and brings a whole lot more revenue to tax rolls than what's currently there.
All right, any more comments from the board? Thoughts, questions? Personally speaking, I like Commissioner German's suggestion of tabling it and seeing if we can get some of these items addressed. But that's my personal opinion. I'd like to hear from the rest of you what your thoughts are.
I think we're close enough. The only couple issues is the building height, and they're getting penalized because they're 20 feet inside of some phony baloney overlay that doesn't really mean anything. They've worked out the building setback, so that's okay. I think there's a resolution here of the landscape buffer issue, so that's going to can be worked out and improved. So I don't know that I see any issues to prohibit this thing moving forward, in my opinion. So based on that, I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the requested small-scale future land use amendment from commercial to planned development and the requested rezone from C2 retail commercial to PD planned development and the master development plan. I think the development order will need to be reviewed by staff again, and they can make a recommendation. I don't feel good enough about trying to add that to my amendment for approval, that staff can deal with that and then recommend to the commission as to that. And my motion would include the resolution of the buffer issue based on what was put on the record tonight with what they said they would do with the additional landscape, and additionally work with staff between now and the commission meeting. So I guess that's my motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I came in here tonight feeling, after reading through our packet, feeling that there were really a lot of asks in here and little attempt at compliance. And I didn't see very obviously the benefit to the community that we were getting in return. I think my position has been a little swayed after this discussion, and particularly in terms of benefit to the community by the most recent statement of the applicant. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
I agree. After his presentation, it was really quite something to really understand that the times change and the need is there, so I agree.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, going into closing business. Dale, do you have anything for the board tonight?
Yes, I do. There was some discussion emails that went around about bringing up that the July meeting that we have for P&Z Commission is on July 3rd. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that that date was there, knowing that July 4th is a holiday. And also on September 4th is our meeting in September, and the holiday is September 2nd, which is that Monday. So again, 2 days later, we have this meeting, and I just thought I'd bring it to the commission again and see if it is something you would want to discuss.
Are there proposed dates to move them to?
I think we should move the July 3rd to the July 10th.
Such as
Because a lot of people are away and it's the day before. I'm not sure that the Labor Day makes any difference. It's Monday. Most people are back and they don't do, it's 2 days later, so I'm not sure.
July 10th is a opportunity, yes.
Yeah.
So is that a motion?
Huh?
I'll be out of the country then.
Well, so you missed one.
Yeah.
Yeah, July 10th.
So that's a motion?
I'll make a motion, we move July 3rd to July 10th.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion on the table and a second to move the July 3rd meeting to July 10th. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the clerk. Hello.
Sorry?
I'm so sorry for my voice.
Sorry.
This is Tammy. I just wanted to make sure that you also put for the record that it will be at 6 PM for that date.
6 p.m.
Thank you.
Is that part of your motion?
It's what you want.
July 10th at 6
July 10th
PM
at
for the
6 p.m.
record.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yep.
That's okay.
Okay, I amend my motion to.
Make a friendly
Thank you,
amendment?
Tammy.
Yes. At 6 p.m. All right. Do we want to do anything with this September 4th meeting date then?
That's 2 days after Labor Day. I don't think that's a big deal.
I agree.
The reason why we brought it up is some individuals take that week off, either the prior week before or the prior week after, and again, we're just bringing it to your attention.
No, I appreciate that. I think
Thank
it's
you.
good.
Okay, yeah, let's go to my calendar. You all good?
All good.
All right. Okay, good. Anything else?
No, that's all we have tonight. Thank you.
All right, does the board have anything else to discuss? Nothing? All right, well, we call this meeting adjourned.
I really thought you had some comments.